The happenings in McLaren and Alpine have always kept us on our toes. One can't help but wonder how the saga between the relevant parties will finish given what's going on between Ricciardo and Piastri and their respective teams. Even more contentious is the possibility of legal action being taken to prevent the hiring of Piastri by McLaren and the departure of Ricciardo from McLaren in favour of another team. In this video, we'll discuss how Lando Norris, a teammate of Ricciardo's, has talked about the car, the difficulties, his connection with Danielle, and his thoughts on the issue as a whole. Stay glued to your screen and we begin. Given his struggles with speed and consistency, Ricciardo's McLaren career appears to be coming to an end, and the team is ready to bring in Oscar Piastri in his place. When the Australian decided to leave Renault for the start of the 2021 season, it was a risk that did not pay off. Even though he won at Monza the previous year, he has had trouble finding any consistent form and adapting to the challenging-to-drive McLaren vehicles. His outcome offers a grim picture when compared to Norris's. The Brit has scored 70 points this year and has excelled despite the team's struggles. Ricciardo, though, has a 51-point deficit to his partner and has frequently struggled in qualifying. Norris has frequently been asked about the Australian situation, and he has previously tried to offer solace by explaining how difficult the McLaren vehicle is to drive. Norris recently reacted angrily when asked if he's playing mind tricks with the former Red Bull star, asking, "In what way? What other tricks of the mind are there? However, I'm actually working hard to assist him. At the end of the day, trying to defeat Alpine is for our collective good. I'm providing more assistance than I normally would because he sees the same data and information that I do. Let's imagine that if you were competing for a world championship, I would say, and do more things just because it would benefit the squad. Right now, that's what I want for the squad. So no, it's not mind games, whatever that is, it's the opposite." It seems unlikely that Ricciardo will stay with McLaren for the entire duration of his contract, which runs through the end of 2023. The player the team wants to take his place is Oscar Piastri. The F2 driver will remain Alpine's driver for the upcoming season, though, according to their understanding of the deal, few anticipated how things would develop. Last year, Ricciardo had trouble getting used to the new car concept, but those issues were eventually resolved, which led to his victory at Monza. McLaren's second season should have fixed things. Despite this, the struggles not only persisted but also got worse. Why then has Ricciardo struggled so much with McLaren's F1 cars over the past 2 years? The important thing to keep in mind is that while the 2022 regulations marked a technical revolution in Formula 1, they did not get rid of many of McLaren's cars' features that made it so challenging to drive the previous year. Like the MCL35M, the MCL36 performs well in fast turns but struggles more in medium-speed ones. After the previous year, McLaren's technical director James Key said that the company wanted to target the flaws and account for them with a blank slate to make sure that there were no ingrained tendencies in a car of that type. Ricciardo and Norris, however, had the same issues with the new vehicle. In a pre-summer interview, Ricciardo said, "The DNA of the car is still the same, but the regulations make the car feel different. There are still some of the issues from last year's automobile that I struggled with. I believe we're beginning to comprehend it better, and Lando does voice his displeasure with it. He's probably just accustomed to it." Norris, on the other hand, has occasionally found it challenging to master the MCL36, which has required him to change his driving technique. "In my opinion, you can't possibly say that the car was built around me. I would say that the car I currently have is completely inappropriate for my driving style and what I want from it. In fact, what the car is currently giving me is the exact opposite of what I want from it. I feel like I've done a respectable job this year in adapting to something that is not what I want or like. It's not a bad thing, it's just the way things are, and you have to deal with it. That's one of the improvements I've made over the last few years." It emphasizes the differences between Norris and Ricciardo this season. Whilst Norris was able to adapt to and work with the MCL36's features, Ricciardo found it difficult to do so. He's always been an aggressive driver who thrived on complete trust in the vehicle. He hasn't had the chance to do so with the McLarens in the previous 2 years. His dismal season continued at the Hungarian ring, where McLaren used the same strategy for both drivers, with Lando Norris finishing 7th after starting 4th and the Australian finishing 15th after starting 9th. After considering the stark difference between his two drivers, team principal Andreas Seidel acknowledged that the team needed to figure out what went wrong. "We scored important points, obviously, for our battle in the Constructors' Championship battle with Alpine, but of course we need to understand why on Daniel's side, with the same strategy, we're falling off so much with the hard tyres in the final stint. which put Daniel out of the points. Seidel said, "That's what Daniel and I need to analyze together." Nevertheless, it appears that plans to replace Ricciardo with Oscar Piastri have already been made, but there is a reported issue. The fact that only Ricciardo has the right to end his contract puts McLaren in a challenging position. The article claims that Ricciardo had requested a fee of more than £12 million in order to quit the team. Even if Ricciardo does decide to leave the Woking team, his F1 future is likely to be secure because several teams are eager to sign him up. If the parties can come to an agreement, the final fee is anticipated to be lower, but Ricciardo will still earn millions for stepping aside to allow Piastri to race alongside Lando Norris. At least 4 teams are said to have gotten in touch with the Australian in recent weeks to express their intention. Alpine is thought to be one of them, and if they lost Piastri to McLaren, they might think about bringing Ricciardo back. Alpine team principal Otmar Zafnauer discussed the prospect. "I mean, take Fernando for instance. He comes and goes, and I believe that happens to other drivers too, so I don't think that's an issue at all. I think what we need to focus on is, like I say, the plans that we have for our next 8 or 9 races. We've got to make sure that we complement the plan with the best driver that we can, and there are some options for us, and we put the best driver next to Esteban so that we can move forward with what we've been planning." As for Piastri's case, it is set to go to court, with both teams confident that they have a valid contract with the racer. If Alpine can show that they have the legal authority to upgrade their reserve to a racing seat for the next season, McLaren may be liable for yet another large payout if Piastri decides to break the contract. Since the two have a history, Alpine views Ricciardo as Piastri's obvious replacement. Ricciardo's decision to reject an offer to remain at the championship-winning Red Bull and head the Renault project for 2019 came as a shock, on par with Fernando Alonso's move to Aston Martin. It was well known that he was in discussions with Renault, but it was assumed that he would remain with Red Bull. Renault triumphed handily. The team won the midfield duel and was on its way to taking 4th place in the Constructors' Championship. The team also had high hopes of bridging the gap to the top 3 the following year. Its driver, Daniel Ricciardo, was in his 5th season with a prestigious team and had won 7 races. Renault was prepared to spend a sizable amount of money, a guaranteed $25 million annually, with some enormous, though fantastic bonuses to acquire a bankable commodity. However, driver values can rise as well as fall. Ricciardo has been a bust at McLaren. He has a contract for next year and he controls the break clause. So after struggling since joining the team in 2021, the question is whether he believes a change of team will bring back the old Ricciardo. Alpine would undoubtedly get a perfectly serviceable driver if it signed Ricciardo. He's doing fine at McLaren and is a dependable driver even in his frail condition. But that's not what Alpine wants, at least not in the short run, according to Otmar Zafnauer. In the short term, we have to replace Fernando with the absolute best driver, but what we mustn't forget is that we have a 100 race plan to start winning races and vying for the championship. We're over 10 races into that, so we have got 80 or so races to do that. So the choice for us has to be one that complements that goal. So that driver that sits next to Esteban has to be the best choice for us that complements and helps us attain that goal. Ricciardo may have been the finest driver on the market in the past, but it's uncertain whether that is still the case today. Will Alpine be prepared to take that risk? It's still hazy. If Alpine's first pick doesn't work out, Ricciardo is still the best alternative available on paper. The Australian would need to regain his stellar form, which is far from certain, in order to be signed though. After an extremely tiring and demanding streak of 13 races in 20 weeks, the Formula 1 paddock entered its summer break in August, right after the 2022 Hungarian Grand Prix at the Hungaroring circuit. The F1 summer break is so fundamental that it has even been included in the sporting regulations, complete with penalties for teams that do not abide by the rules. In a general sense, the F1 summer break is the period between the last race in July and the first return race in late August or early September. Since the F1 calendar has lengthened to over 20 races each season, the summer break has been introduced to ensure free time, with rules established to prevent teams from exploiting it to gain a competitive advantage. It is also a way to keep costs under control, having been introduced long before the budget cap, because it means that every F1 team has to put development and research work on hold. The 2022 F1 season will continue after the summer break with the Belgian GP in Spa-Francorchamps on August 26 to 28th, which will kick off the final 9 races over the next 12 weeks. What do you think though? Will Daniel Ricciardo decide to leave the team and give McLaren what they want? What will he do if that is the case? And will Alpine sign him despite its uncertainty? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed watching this video, please give it a like, do share and subscribe to our channel for more updates and happenings in the Formula 1 world. You can also click on the bell icon to turn on post notifications so that you get notified every time we upload a new video. Bye for now.